Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Good to see you. Pardon me for this sensational title. I probably wouldn't have done this with my new change of heart and my new demeanor, but this was kind of deserved, I do believe. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and I kept to my new self, my new demeanor, and I just saw the slaying of, well, several minds that thought they had this under control. If they hadn't been so arrogant and so dishonest, I wouldn't be so sensational about it right now. But Breakfast Tacos and his crew certainly were embarrassed this evening. And they had to go to extreme circumstances to rid me from their channel because I wouldn't blow a top, I wouldn't be sidetracked, and it was a lot of fun. But I did a little search tonight, looked for a live stream on an atheist site, channel, and I found Breakfast Tacos. And they were obliterating, and there was a group of about 5 of them, I reckon, kind of obliterating this poor little Catholic fellow that was trying his heart out and doing a pretty good job, actually. He's not he wasn't a dull character at all. He was pretty smart, but he was pretty outclassed at the same time. And he wasn't privy to a lot of the information, unfortunately, that I'm privy to. And so he had a really hard time. They worked to embarrass him, to break him down, and to mock Christ. And that got me just a little bit perturbed. But I didn't take it out on him. And I think that you'll appreciate my demeanor as we go into this. So this is my portion of that debate, folks. I'll let you decide for yourself. God bless you. How you doing, gentlemen?
Howdy.
My name is Eric. And
Hi, Eric.
I don't know any of you. I've never met any of you, but let me say it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm a Christian. I'm not hostile, and I'm not here to preach to you. But I would like to offer you some facts to show you that there's good reason to deny evolution. And I'm going to put a little link in the private chat back here. And if you pull this up privately, you'll see that takes you to Berkeley Evolution 101, part of their course there, which I've gone through myself. And it gives you a specific thing on soup cells. And what I want to do is just discuss the very first thing.
Eric, before you go any further, can you tell us what you think evolution is before you go further?
Yeah, if you'll indulge me just for a second and let me just jump into this.
Well, you can inform us with one simple sentence that describes what evolution is. It's real simple.
Okay, well, I don't know how you would like for me to colloquially word this for you, but okay, evolution, I guess.
2 ex-NASA engineers just created a portable AC that is making old expensive models obsolete.
Little bits of change along the way.
When you say it,
now, if I could use this to prove that I know what I'm talking about.
I think you have a different understanding what evolution is when you say one animal group changes to another animal group. What do you mean by that? Are you saying?
Okay. Well, let me offer you.
Are you saying we're going to see a cat give rise to a dog?
Pardon me. Please don't try to corkscrew me into a narrative.
I'm trying to understand you.
Allow me. Okay, then allow me just to.
I'll let you dig your own hole.
A few things.
I'll let you dig your own hole.
Thank you. Okay, first of all, we were mentioning transitional fossils. Okay, and I heard you guys say, as most evolutionists do say, that every fossil is transitional, and I understand the reasoning there. But let me say, if you're going to go by actual scientific method, you can't show that you have a single one transitional fossil. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is this. You say, for instance, Archaeopteryx. I'm going to use Archaeopteryx as an example. I imagine most people in the audience, if they're familiar with evolution, will know what Archaeopteryx is.
Yeah.
The theory is that Archaeopteryx, the hypothesis, I should say, is that Archaeopteryx descended from theropod dinosaurs, and some people believe it evolved eventually into modern birds, or was a step into modern birds, or it was the first, it's along that line, the theory, the hypothesis. Now, I understand that, and that's cool. If that's what a person wants to believe, I have no problem with that. But now, if you're going to actually put the scientific method to your hypothesis, you have to test that theory. Now, a true scientific test on a scientific hypothesis has to have the capability, the potential capability to prove your hypothesis to be incorrect. Or it could verify it. Now, the only way to verify or to absolutely prove it true or false is to test the DNA. And you seriously don't have the DNA of these alleged transitional fossils. You don't have the DNA of the Archaeopteryx. You don't have the DNA of any of the theropod dinosaurs, surely. Now, on the other hand, too, we do have the DNA of some more recent fossils, like the dire wolf, for instance. And we do have the sequence DNA of the dire wolf. And for 100 or 150 years, it was claimed that the dire wolf is the ancestor to dogs and wolves. Well, now that we've tested the DNA, we know that's false. They are a complete animal group unto themselves. So all I'm saying is, I think that evolution is mostly just a bunch of claims, and you have neglected to apply actual science and scientific method to these claims. And now, if you'll allow me to take that as an introduction, and then just go into two little steps here of evolution. If you look at that link that I included there, from Berkeley University, I put it in the main chat, by the way. Berkeley Evolution 101 from Soup to Cells. You can pull it up. Just type that in Google. It'll bring up the article for you. What it says is that abiogenesis is the very first step of the evolutionary cycle, and that cells, actually, all life stems from cellular life. All life is cellular. If you don't have a cell, you don't have life. You know, this cellular life is what we claim is life. So that's why viruses aren't claimed as life, for instance. They're not cellular. That's one of the reasons. So the problem is, the theory is that cells evolved over a period of time. In other words, they just naturally fell together. And they say that, it kept trying to form a cell. Nature kept trying to form a cell, and it failed. And it tried again, and it failed until it finally formed a cell. You could even say protocells, okay? They formed protocells first. But the problem is, we have never really created a functional protocell that's a really life, really living. And we've done a lot of things that are monsters, but nothing that's life, not a functioning protocell or a functioning cell. So in nature, you've never seen a cell just form, naturally form. And then you've never seen it occur in a laboratory. So there you go. There's the first step of evolution right there. If you can't form a cell, you can't form life. Now let's give them a cell. Okay, so let's just say you have a fully functional living cell. Now what's the next step? It has to turn into a multicellular organism. Well, that's your next problem. Now, there's a lot of claims out there that, yes, we have seen multicellular organisms form from single-cell organisms. That's false. That's a lie. Ask AI. Ask your science books. Ask your science teachers. Ask your science writers. What we do see are single cells that stay single cells, and they keep dividing into single cells. But what they do is form colonies. They don't actually form a multicellular organism, and they don't give birth to a multicellular organism. And the colonies they form don't form multicellular organisms or give birth to them. It just doesn't happen. What you do have is a single cell that keeps reproducing single cells, and they colonize together for survival's sake. That's all. But never in the history of science, observation, or anything that we've been able to perform in the laboratory, never have we seen a single cell form a multicellular organism, even two cells. Why is that? Because when the single cell divides, it can only divide itself. It develops a twin. It divides into two identical cells. And it's like they're starting all over again. So you have the very first two steps of evolution that don't allow for evolution. We don't see them anywhere, guys. Not in the laboratory, and certainly not in nature. And we don't have any way to say that we have proven any lineage descent.
How much longer are you going to be?
I'm done.
Okay.
So,
I mean, it seems like, like
by the way,
said, you're conflating evolution.
You,
what?
I said, by the way, thank you very much for allowing me that.
Oh, yeah. Well, it seems like you're conflating evolution and abiogenesis. Those are two separate processes. Evolution could have occurred with panspermia. It could have occurred even if God Monster created single-celled organism or DNA could have occurred, right?
Well, wouldn't you agree that evolution had to eventually occur somewhere, even if panspermia occurred here? Isn't it true?
We know evolution happened, right? I mean, there's overwhelming evidence for it. We have
certainly
evidence
don't.
in every field of
you're living in a
science.
dream world if you're going to make that comment. I really do.
So there's a scientific theory of evolution.
Okay.
And that's what we were talking about and what you said you wanted to talk about, and that's fine. But we're not going to conflate abiogenesis as the same as or a part of the theory of evolution. Abiogenesis is a hypothesis. It's the leading hypothesis on the position right now. Although panspermia is possible, but the theory of evolution is a scientific theory. And just to confirm, you know the difference between a scientific theory and a colloquial theory?
Yeah, I just told you, you test a scientific theory.
And at no point in this upcoming conversation, you're going to conflate a scientific theory with a colloquial theory?
No, I'm not. I'm talking specifically about scientific theories.
And you know Mary Schweitzer is now an old earther?
Yeah, I'm an old earther.
You know Mary Schweitzer accepts
I know
evolution?
who Mary Schweitzer is. I know all about her work, yes. I'm an old earther, but that doesn't change.
And you know she accepts evolution?
That fact that I've put before you, and you haven't denounced that fact or proven me wrong.
Well, the point that I'm making is that there is an overwhelming amount of evidence. Not just evidence, it's data that exists in every field that the scientific theory of evolution is explaining, right? This is
that's your point of view. I disagree with that.
You find some way to poke holes in 5 or 6 or 7 different things. There's still overwhelming evidence, right?
I haven't poked holes in anything.
Find
I'm
a
sure
way.
you don't
Stop interrupting me. I let you talk.
Oh, I'm
for
sorry.
Like
You're right.
7
You're
minutes,
correct,
dude.
I apologize.
So even if there was you poked a hole in like 7 or 8 things, there's still an overwhelming amount of evidence. You would have to provide a competitive hypothesis against the scientific theory of evolution, or you would have to recommend making a change in the way that evolution is explained.
Well, in your druthers maybe, but I don't have to provide an alternative theory to show that this one's not possible. And like for instance, can you show me? I heard everybody here talking about all fossils are transitional.
So
I'm going to challenge you.
You would if you want to be taken. Do you want to be
moment.
taken seriously, or do you want to be laughed off of every?
Well,
stage
can you show me one?
I ask a direct question. Do you want to be taken seriously, or do you want to be laughed off of every stage you go on to?
You can try to laugh me out of anything if you like.
I'm asking you a direct.
For over 50 years, Super 8 has been there when the open road calls for a good night's rest.
Seriously, sir. By the way, what's your name?
Taco.
Taco, you don't have to take me seriously. You can deny what I'm saying here.
I'm asking you what your goal is. Is your goal?
Well, I would assume that since I brought you everything that I brought you was scientific.
It's hard to answer a question if you're talking when it's being asked for the 7th time after.
Feel free to ask and let me know when you're done, Taco.
Yeah. So, and hopefully it's just a simple answer, right? It's not that hard of a question. So, do you want to be laughed off of every stage that you go on to like this, or do you want to be taken serious?
Are you done?
Yeah, that's an easy question to answer.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I would think that the information I came with would cause you to take me seriously, but apparently scientific method isn't good enough for you.
So you would like to be taken
now, I would
serious.
like to challenge you, if you don't want to be laughed at by the Christians here.
So
can
if
you
want
show
to be
us?
Taken seriously,
if you want to be taken seriously, show me one transitional fossil wherein the DNA has been tested to prove it was transitional from one group to another.
We don't need DNA to show that it's transitional. We can do that from the structure of the fossils.
For instance, you can't look.
Okay. So I was making a point. You talked for like 7 or 8 minutes nonstop, and then I talked for like 3 minutes. There's a big time disparity here, so I'm claiming back some of my time. Now, you said you want to be taken seriously, and I hope that's true. Now, to be taken seriously, you're going to have to abide by the rules of the system, right? Now, I'm probably not a guy to actually examine the math and the science by a competitive hypothesis, but that's how you would combat the scientific theory of evolution, is by providing a competitive scientific hypothesis that examines and provides an explanation of the data better than the theory of evolution does. Or you can look at making modifications to the theory of evolution, because there is the data that exists that you would have to explain with it. You're saying discard all of the data. Nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to take you seriously if you say discard all the data processes that we see, data in every relevant field. And you're saying discard it all. You're all wrong. That sounds crazy, dude. Sorry. All right. Now you can respond.
Well, you're kind of straw manning everything. First of all, I don't have to prove anything else is possible to prove that evolution is not possible. You don't have to find another theory to test your theories. Okay. And that's what scientific evidence is for. That's what scientific testing is for. What we do is we take the hypothesis and we test them. If we want to call them a valid theory, we have to test them. So transitional fossils are not valid theories. They're not valid hypotheses because you cannot put them to the test.
They're not hypotheses. They're data points.
They are
in
absolutely.
broader hypothesis.
Do you know how
no,
a
they're not. They're
transitional
data
fossil?
points. They're
Do you
data
know
points
how
in a
This
broader
is
in order
why
for it to
nobody's
be
going to
data,
take you seriously.
in order for it to be data points,
because
here's what you have
you're
to have.
annihilating
May I
in your
may I
own
address
mind the
his point?
scientific method.
May I
through
address his
fallacious
point,
reasoning.
please?
You don't
I don't
understand
want.
it, and
Here's
you're
what I will not do.
strawmanning it,
I am
and
not
you
going to
think
let you
you've
make a
defeated
point.
it, but you have
I'm
no
not gonna
idea
let
what you're saying.
I am not going to let you make a point and then him make a point and me not get to address his point. Okay, I'm not going to do that. Now, if you don't want me here, that's fine. I'll be happy to leave. But if you want to have a discussion, we'll have a discussion, gentlemen. Now, what was your other point that I have to what? The other gentleman that was speaking here, not Taco, but what did the other gentleman just say?
Theophilus?
Whoever was speaking other than Taco, I would like to address what he said.
You said that transitional species are theories, and he said, no, those are data points. And
Okay.
you said you were wrong.
Now,
and those
yes.
are literally data points. Those
Now,
are
here's
what. Those are.
Do you gentlemen know how? Thank you, by the way, Taco. Thank you.
Evolution is explaining.
Thank you. Do you know how we decide what is a transitional fossil and what is transitional to and from what?
Well, it's sort of just built into the whole notion of like the fossil record is that
I'm
for
going to
every
use
fossil we look at, it's going to have ancestors and progeny that it sits in between in the phylogenetic tree.
Well, there you go. You just said the magic words. Look at. And ladies and gentlemen, that's how they decide what is transitional to and from what. Let's use Archaeopteryx again for an example. They dig up Archaeopteryx. They take a look at it.
Okay. The topic is evolution. Nobody cares about the nonsense. So we're talking about evolution. There is a scientific theory of evolution, which is explaining data points.
So if you don't want to hear the arguments, that's cool.
These data points exist, and you have to explain them with your alternative. What is your alternative?
I don't need an alternative. Of course I have an alternative, but I don't need an alternative to disprove it. Now, what I'm doing is disproving.
You would. There are data points. You would have to
disproving the ridiculousness of the claim that all fossils are transitional.
Falsify evolution without having a competitive hypothesis.
No.
But it would still be explaining the same
Does
data.
your audience even know how flimsy?
Do you acknowledge that there is a ton of data in every relevant field supporting the scientific theory?
Look at this, ladies and gentlemen, how intimidated they are by this information.
Nobody's intimidated. I asked you a direct
absolutely
question.
You are.
You can't even respond
because you can't point out a single transitional fossil.
Are you going to respond to my question?
The Archaeopteryx.
Now, the Archaeopteryx, guys, let's look at how they decided it is transitional from the theropod dinosaur into the modern bird. They look at
the in between both of them in the fossil record.
That's
in the genomic.
That's the claim is that they are related. The claim is that they are transitional from one and to the other.
Yeah, we see that.
That is a claim. That is a hypothesis. Now, to test this hypothesis, let's look first at why you formed this hypothesis. You looked at the limbs, for instance, of the theropod dinosaur, and the rear limbs, for instance, of the hindquarters.
How many beers in are you?
And you said that there's a lot of similarities between the theropod dinosaur and the legs of the Archaeopteryx, okay? And there's other similarities that you've noted. And then you note that there's similarities between modern birds and the Archaeopteryx. So what you have is just you're looking at these things and you say, okay, I'm going to hypothesize that it descended from the theropod dinosaur and evolved into a bird. But now you have to test that hypothesis if you're going to call it a scientific theory. And in order to test that, there is only one test that you can perform on these things that has the capability of proving your hypothesis correct or incorrect. The only test that you can run on these things that has the capability of proving it right or wrong is the DNA test. And you don't have the DNA of any of these things. You don't have the DNA of 99% of these fossils. So that means that you can't test almost anything on your entire phylogenetic chart. And the things that you are able to test always prove to be wrong. It proves your theory wrong. Like the dire wolf, not even related to dogs and wolves. Neanderthal, for instance, Neanderthal, modern man, Homo sapien, is another one. Now,
thank you for the super chat, Kieran Dave. I guess you could feel me rubbing my eyes through the interwebs.
When I was a child, the Neanderthal was said to be ancestor to modern man. Then, as I came up through school, they changed that and said he was a cousin, a distant cousin. If you look right now, Neanderthal is a species of its own, Neanderthalis. Okay. But the truth is,
bro, I can't do this. I can't. This is so fucking boring. You're going.
Well, I'm sure it's
like a gamut of points. Dude, you're not gonna overtalk me on my own fucking channel. I am so bored. Look, there is a mountain of data points.
Well, that's what you say.
Scientific theory of evolution.
That's what you say. That's your claim. But you don't have any proof.
It's describing all of this data working as a whole.
For instance, what evidence
doesn't matter if you critique it?
What evidence do you have that mankind, for instance, is descended from an ape?
Well, no, we're not descended from apes. We are apes.
Oh,
okay,
man.
Descended. What evidence do you have?
We are apes.
What evidence do you have that we are related to the chimpanzee with a common ancestor?
DNA, the genomic record.
Okay, okay. Now, hold on a second. You look at the genomic record. Okay, you look at the genome of the chimpanzee, and you look at the genome of the the modern human. You see the similarities, and what do you hypothesize? What is your hypothesis when you note that similarity?
You said that you had to use DNA.
Hold on. What I'm asking is,
accept the DNA if it comes.
What I am asking you is,
oh my!
Do you have an answer? When you look at the DNA of somebody, answer. Humor me.
Evidence that you have.
Do you understand the question?
This is the problem.
When you
are you a flat earther?
No. Do you understand this question, sir?
I don't even care anymore. This is so fucking boring.
When you look,
dude.
you mentioned common ancestors, so let's talk about common ancestors. When you look at the DNA of the chimpanzee and you look at the DNA of the modern human, what do you hypothesize?
We don't really hypothesize anything so much as
you don't hypothesize. You don't hypothesize that we have a common ancestor.
No, we conclude that we have a common ancestor.
No, you don't conclude that.
If you're feeling this way, the internet we've all so come to depend on, it's become one of the most dangerous.
Dude. That's foregoing scientific method.
No,
you are not applying scientific method.
Yeah, we're hypothesizing things, and then we're going out into the world and we're looking at things.
Damaging him, Leo. I think we are.
And then when they do,
him in his
we continue to use those theories.
You guys are so selectively non-scientific.
I understand science infinitely better than you. I have a 1,400-page book on the philosophy of science. It's used in the Introduction to Philosophy of Science course at the University of Oxford. I've been reading it the last 2 months, and that's after I already read a book on the philosophy of science, something I've studied for over a decade. I understand science infinitely better than you ever will. And it doesn't look like that's going to be hard to beat because you look pretty old.
So they say, ladies and gentlemen, they're not going to apply scientific evidence.
Hey, listen.
To their own evidence.
The DNA evidence that we have that shows that we're apes now and how we descended from other apes. how the hell would you accept evidence that we had that was DNA evidence?
See,
that
here's what they would have to
that
do.
We're
folks.
related to amphibian way back when. How would you accept that evidence?
Here's what they
You
would have
wouldn't.
to do, guys, ladies and gentlemen. Here's what they would have to do.
You
They
don't
look at the-
accept the evidence
They
we
look
have
at the
now.
DNA. They look at the
That's the
DNA.
problem.
They look at the DNA of the
Look.
chimpanzee.
Look, we're not going further. You don't accept the evidence that they
Well,
have
there you
now.
go, ladies and gentlemen. They can't
Okay,
provide.
okay, you don't. I'm mod godding you right now. You don't get to undo my mod god. That's the rules on my channel. If I mod,
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. And that's when they booted me from their program, because I was pointing out to them that their hypothesis is that when they look at the DNA of the chimpanzee and the DNA of the modern human, they hypothesize that we have a common ancestor. Now, how do you put this to the test? There's only one way to test that, and you need to point out a common ancestor, first of all, and then you need to test its DNA. That is the only way to test this hypothesis, that we have a common ancestor with the chimpanzee. First of all, they can't even point to the common ancestor and say that's our common ancestor. Secondly, they have no way at all to test its DNA because we don't have its DNA. So there you go. And they know this. So, of course, it's time to boot the Christian that was totally friendly, amicable, knew what he was talking about, presented his arguments, addressed their questions, pointed out their straw men, and pointed out the fact that, yes, I've got a 4,200-page book on this and scientific evidence and this, and I've got all this in Oxford, and yet they still refuse to apply scientific method to their own pet theories. Isn't that amazing? There you go, guys. There's the intellectual mindset of the dishonest atheist. Now, to the honest atheists out there, I salute you, my friends. To the ones that are able to accept all of this and argue it honestly, I salute you. Whether or not this phases you or not, or changes you or not, that's okay. But if you're willing to acknowledge the truth, I salute you. So, breakfast tacos for a midnight snack, along with all his buddies. And they were the ones that embarrassed themselves, I'm afraid. So, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Love you all. God bless you all.